I'm sure you guys are so sick of me talking about the summer actor and pretty, but there's just another thing that really bugs me when it comes to this fandom. Both brothers are awful. They're so bad. They're terrible dating options for Belly. Belly's not a saint. Belly's not a saint. Belly's not this angel who's perfect. But none of them. They're all imperfect beings. But what's weird to me is like they're so awful. They're so terrible. Now it is awful to date two brothers. Obviously, this is a fictional world where it's allowed and not seen as bad as it would in real life. But neither of them are awful options. So they're both flawed. The only reason why I say I don't understand why you can ship Jeremiah and Belly is not because Jeremiah is not a viable option for dating. It's because she's clearly still in love with Conrad. There's this dormant underlying feeling and affection for him that is never going to be let go of. And that's the reason why I say I don't understand why you could be Team Jeremiah. Not because he's not capable of being a good boyfriend or worthy of love or he's awful or a red flag or anything like that. I don't get when people say that they're both awful options. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not both awful. It's such. Are you perfect? People, I swear people judge these people and cannot reflect on the human being experience and how people are not perfect and they make mistakes and they go through things and they don't always process them properly and maybe they're pushing things down. Nobody, and like, what are you talking about? They're not awful options. And Belly's not terrible either. But oh my goodness, I really don't get this.
Belly went from being depressed to practically asking Jeremiah to propose to her in 36 hours. Let's talk about how we even got here. First, I want to look at the timeline because I think it's kind of funny and it just shows you how rushed everything is. So 10 a.m. Saturday was finals freakout. Thank God for Steven keeping us in check on what day it is. On Saturday night, we have the dinner with Belly and Steven. We have the frat party and then Belly finds out about Lacey. Sunday during the day, Belly walks around campus and has memories of Jeremiah and Steven is again confirming that it is Sunday. And then Sunday night, Steven gets in a car crash. At 10 a.m. on Monday, I actually forgot to add this very important part, Belly has her Christmas flashback and then immediately goes after Jeremiah and then they get engaged. So the total time, let's just assume that they got in their fight around 10 p.m. on Saturday night to 10 a.m. Monday is 36 hours. I think there's a couple of main reasons why Belly so quickly decided to get back with Jeremiah, and the first one is the sunk cost fallacy. She's invested so much into this relationship for 4 years and she doesn't want to just throw that away after one mistake. So in the very more near term, she would have had to quit her summer job and she wouldn't have been able to go to Susanna's memorial. She wouldn't have been able to go to the summer house during the summer. Those are pretty much all things that she just doesn't want to give up. Next is because Belly thinks she's on a level playing field with Jeremiah because they both have secrets. So Annika says that Jeremiah is being shady because he didn't tell her about what happened in Cabo. It's not cheating, but keeping it a secret is when you know that you did something wrong, really just as bad as doing the act itself. And that conversation immediately launches Belly into remembering that she has a secret too. So now Belly doesn't technically think that Jeremiah was cheating on her, but what he did was keep a secret. She's also keeping a secret, so that makes her just as bad as him. Leads her to apologize, but not really apologize for what she thinks she's doing wrong. Next, Jeremiah and Belly are codependent and clinging to each other. He said that losing Belly felt like he was literally losing the best part of himself. He considers Belly essentially on the same level as his mom, and he needs her in his life. Times like this with Steven's accident, Belly immediately wanted Jeremiah to be there and to comfort her and make her feel better. And the crux of the entire accident and what Belly really learned from it is that life is too short and she just wants to solidify her relationship with Jeremiah and never be without him. She promised Jeremiah after season 2 when he made her feel really guilty that she would never abandon him and always be there for him. I think this is a major one. She thinks that she's destined to be with a Fisher boy. She's evicted Conrad from her heart and she thinks that there's never going to be anything with him ever again. So if she can't be with Conrad, Jeremiah is her best bet. And lastly, but I think this one's really important, she foreshadowed this exact situation happening. She was talking to Conrad on the phone in season 2. She said, if my dad had cheated on my mom, he probably wouldn't have even cared. Where we're at right now with Belly being able to get over this entire cheating debacle in just 36 hours and now she's engaged.
Let's talk about Laurel and John and why they are rekindling their romance and what that means for Belly and Belly and Conrad's storyline. I've seen a lot of people being like, okay, I thought they were representative of like Jeremiah and Belly because Laurel says she doesn't feel fireworks with John. That's not it. Belly doesn't understand in the first 2 seasons, because she's young, what it means to really be in love with somebody. Her depiction and idea of love is based on romantic comedies, romance movies, books. She has a unrealistic and idealized version of love in her head. And therefore, she doesn't think that her parents were in love because she tells Conrad it didn't seem like they ever kissed, right? They never had any like romance between them. And she didn't think that Laurel would care if John cheated on her. But when Belly asks Laurel if she's ever felt fireworks with anyone, she does say she did, and that it would have burned them both alive. And then she asks like about, her parents, and Laurel says, well, it's kind of like a cozy campfire, I think is what she says, right? It's just, and her meaning by that is that it's like calm, warm, and steady. Warm, calm, and steady. Comfortable. That's what Belly and Conrad are. Belly did not understand at the time that she's talking to Conrad on the phone what it truly means to be in love. She still has this version where it is red. And that is where Red and Daylight really are being misunderstood by the fan base. And part of that is the marketing of that being about the two different individual boys in the love triangle. But both Red and Daylight are not about a specific muse. They're not about the man in the relationship. They are Taylor reflecting on how she sees love and what it means for her to be in love with somebody. It's her recollection of how her own emotional response was to love. In Red, she was young. It was a younger depiction of love. It was, I need to have all the highs and all the lows. I need to feel the passion of the red emotion, but I also need to feel the anger. Like, it's really giving you that, like, can't eat, can't sleep kind of love. Like, that's what it should feel like. And so when in the aftermath of a breakup, she also feels really blue and really down, right? Belly, that's how she was loving Conrad in her youth. She was also very much responsible for those emotions that she portrayed in the earlier seasons. We can talk about Conrad's issues, but Belly chose to really engulf herself in Conrad to the point where when they broke up because of his grief, her grades suffered. She was no longer on the volleyball team, right? She was really like all consumed by that love, which is a red kind of love. Daylight is Taylor as an older, more mature woman who has now been in a steady long-term relationship, and she's reflecting on her, entire youth essentially in relationships. And she's learned a lot along the way. And she now realizes that love is like daylight. Because if you think about the lyrics of that song, it's all about Taylor. She's talking about how she wounded the good and trusted the wicked. Her love was as cruel as the cities she lived in. It's very much her. It's not about Joe. It's not about the muse, right? It's about her reaction to love. And so in the choruses, she's singing about how she's realizing now that love doesn't have to be so extreme. It doesn't have to be this like intense emotion constantly. It can literally just be as dependable and calm as the daylight coming up. It's golden. It just... You walk outside and it's there, right? You feel it in the smallest moments, the scene, right? But Belly hasn't discovered that yet. She is with Jeremiah right now, and now they're in that like physical PDA, constantly all over each other, always making out, and that's something that Laurel and John did not do around her. But we saw that Laurel and John are flirting. They're having sex. There's chemistry there. Belly was just too young to notice what it looks like to have a mature adult relationship and to be with someone for so long, too, that it's going to evolve like that. Fireworks is great, but it's not consistent throughout a love, right? If you have a long-term relationship, you don't constantly always have fireworks because fireworks are explosive. A burning fire is warm and comforting and it keeps the light on, right? It keeps guiding you towards, where you're supposed to be. So at some point, Belly's gonna have an awakening, whether that's in dialogue with her mom, like really actually talking about like maybe her dilemma in her relationships, like being confused about the boys, or she's gonna actually like see her parents rekindling their romance and be like, what's happening? I thought you guys didn't love each other anymore, right? And she's gonna start maturing in her understanding of it, that love isn't always as it seems, Belly. And what was the first song we got in season 3? Dreams by the Cranberries. What does it say? My life is changing in every possible way, and oh my dreams, it's never quite as it seems, 'cause you're a dream to me. Go back to my last video I posted about dreams and how that is all about Conrad. So yeah, that's what's happening with Laurel and John. That's the point of the story. That's the lesson that Belly has to learn. My prediction for this episode is that we're going to get the dream that Belly has of her and little Conrad that she has the night of Jeremiah's proposal. I think either we'll actually get the dream sequence where Belly is who Belly is now with a small version of Conrad, because in the dream he's like 10, 11 years old. And that will be how we start off season 3 or episode 3, excuse me. Or it'll be Belly recalling the dream in some kind of monologue or dialogue or something where she's bringing up this dream that she had of Conrad. I believe there has to be some kind of tie-in to this dream because it's a metaphor for the difference between Belly, the person in reality, and the Belly in her subconscious. She says yes to Jeremiah, but then she goes and dreams that night about Conrad. And the dream itself is a metaphor. So in the dream, she's the same age as she was now, like I had mentioned, but Conrad is 10 or 11. They're outside, they're playing until it gets dark, and then she says, Susanna will be wondering where you are. You should go home. But Conrad says, I can't. I don't know how. Will you help me? And then Belly gets sad because she doesn't know how to get home either. They weren't at her house anymore. It was dark. They were in the woods. They were lost. That is a metaphor for Belly's subconscious trying to convince her to go home. And also Conrad is wandering, trying to get home. They are lost. What is home? Each other. They are home. They are two halves of the same soul that are wandering in search of each other, and they're separated right now. When Belly starts to wake up, she's trying to think of the dream again so that she can remember it. So she is closing her eyes. She's willing herself to remember before it was gone. Those last few seconds before the sun sets, going, and then gone. Remember, Belly, remember, or the dream will slip away forever. She is holding on to this dream of Conrad. Jeremiah wakes her up. She shushes him, and then she remembers Conrad and how funny he looked in the denim overalls, the two of them playing outside for hours. She let out a sigh. She felt relieved that she could remember the dream and to store that dream memory in her head. That dream is so wild, but it really goes to show you that Belly is living in a delusion. And because she's with Jeremiah right now, she is only able to really fully be happy because she continues to dream and think about Conrad in her subconscious. You cannot separate Conrad and Jeremiah because she needs Conrad's memories. She needs all the dreams that she's ever had about him because everything about Conrad is a dream to Belly. She needs to continue to keep those dreams alive in order to feel fulfilled in the reality, which is she's with Jeremiah. Everything about Conrad is a dream. It's a dream to hold his hand. It's a dream come true that he's calling her after book 1, season 1. And, he likes to talk to her. Everything about Conrad is a dream. At the end of season 2, she says, dreams aren't real, but you're real, Jeremiah, and I want to be with you, right? Like something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. But she starts to think that her dreams are not worth fulfilling. Like she can never chase that dream. It's never going to be real. So she starts to pivot to what she thinks is what she deserves, and that's Jeremiah. But yet, we're all dreamers. We continue to dream, and that's really important to Belly. Because she says in book 2, when she's dealing with Susanna's death and the grief that she's feeling, and she's also at this point in the story not speaking to either Conrad or Jeremiah, she says, but when I slept that night, I dreamed of Susanna and the summer house. And even in my sleep, I knew exactly how good it used to be back when Susanna was alive and Jeremiah and Conrad were talking to her. How right it was. And no matter what you do or how hard you try, you can't stop yourself from dreaming. So Belly will never stop herself from dreaming of Conrad until her dreams become reality. This is our start. This is the moment it becomes real. We are married. We are infinite. Me and Conrad, the first boy I ever slow danced with, ever cried over, ever loved.
So look, y'all, for months. Y'all know I've been saying I'm not Team Conrad, I'm not Team Jeremiah, I'm not Team neither. But look, I might have to make myself a liar. Because now I might be Team Conrad. And it's on that Still in Love. I'm sorry, everything that I'm seeing, everything the first 2 episodes told us. First of all, Belly, sis, if you get a text or a call, you're not even seeing them face to face. It looks like your heart skipped a beat. Oh, you're with your boyfriend? That might be a sign that this is the guy that's meant for you. It's not just that. There are 2 versions of Belly. The her she is when she's with Conrad, and the her she is when she's with Jeremiah. And I'm sorry. You know, I don't even know why I'm saying sorry, because I'm not sorry. When Belly's with Jeremiah, she's not being herself. She's not being herself because she can't be. Her relationship with Jeremiah consists of her never being able to say how she really feels. Her constantly having to walk and tread carefully on eggshells. Because otherwise, he'll get mad and storm off and won't want to talk it out. It feels like Belly constantly has to put on an act for their relationship to work. And the moment that she stops putting on that act and she tells Jeremiah how she really feels, he leaves her and gets with someone else. Literally, it just in the first 2 episodes, in their relationship, Belly always has to be the responsible adult. Why is Belly having to look after a grown man like that's her child? But y'all, there is a clear difference when we get here. And it's because between the two, Belly is the most herself when she's around Conrad. Belly is around Conrad, she's full of life. She says whatever she thinks, even without thinking about it, because with him, she doesn't have to. You know, it's like a vibe that you have with someone, whether it's a friend or a relationship. As soon as you're around them, you feel young. Like they make you feel that happiness and excitement that we felt as kids. Legitimately, the thing with Belly and Conrad is that they're natural. Like the way that they flow with each other is just natural. They were over there in the house and cousins during Christmas acting like they had been married for years. They got that closeness with each other where you can be with someone, but you don't gotta be with someone. You know that vibe that you have with someone? When both of y'all are together in the same place, and even when there's no words, even when y'all aren't actually doing something together, it's not awkward because you're that close with that person. That's the vibe that Belly and Conrad have. Like, y'all, I don't know. Right now, I'm still kind of holding out because I don't know what the season has for us. For all intents and purposes, for right now, it's them, and I'm here.
So you guys, now that we officially have episode 1 and 2 of The Summer I Turned Pretty season 3, I wanted to do my analysis on episode 1. I'm probably going to have to break this up into 2 parts because it's going to be a longer one. But in the beginning, we have our girl Belly. She is driving the car and Steven's in the back along with Laurel and John. So it's a family affair. They are moving her stuff into Finch for another year. And I love this because it's almost like a parallel to Steven starting season 1, episode 1, driving the car into Cousins, and Belly is driving the car now. It is her future. She gets to decide what happens in her life, and I just love that for her. She looks gorgeous. She is our queen. I love her so much, and I'm just so excited for this season. So we kind of start them. They're unpacking stuff for Finch. Jeremiah, we see, of course, because they're at school together, annoyingly. And then we have Taylor and her mom, Lucinda, and there's some banter with Taylor and Steven, which I'm really intrigued to kind of see in the future episodes and see what happens with them. And then we have Connie, baby. We flash to Conrad in California. I absolutely love his entrance. I swear, it's like one of my favorites. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like right off the bat, it was a great just entrance. And the fact that he walks right into his therapist's office as a big told you so to all the Team Jers that doubt him. I love that he's getting therapy and he's improving himself. He's being the man that everybody knew he could be. His mom would be so proud of him, Laurel tells him. And it's just this much more grown up, sophisticated man, as opposed to the teenager, because they did confirm it's a 4-year time jump. So it's a little bit of a different vibe. But Conrad especially, I love it. And then we have Steven. We show him at his new job. Adam hired him. We learned that he graduated college early with honors from Princeton. And so he's working at Adam's company. And then we meet his new coworker, Denise, who I'm really excited for. And I think she's going to be an interesting part to the season. She's kind of tough, and I think it's going to be like an interesting vibe with Denise and Steven, and just kind of see what happens. She is considered main cast, so I'm very intrigued about this duo, but I think she could be really good for Steven. And then, as if we didn't see enough Steven, we have Steven and Taylor, who are
friends with benefits. I do not like their storyline this season. I think it's kind of annoying, and I wish they would have done something a little bit differently. In a way, it makes sense because they're both unable to commit, and it's not like it's out of character because they both cheated in the past. Back in season 1, Steven cheated on Shayla with Taylor, and then Taylor emotionally cheated on Milo with Steven. So there's also just like a lot of history with the two of them. So hopefully they can figure everything out by the end of the season. I would like to see them endgame, but they're just all over the place. And then we have this scene with Taylor, Annika, and Belly, which I love, very similar to the one in the book. Although the book was like right in the beginning. This is kind of like a mid-ish episode. But they're all just kind of studying, and then Belly finds out that she got accepted to a study abroad program for Paris, which she had always wanted to do and had been on the wait list. I feel like it was very interesting how that was kind of different from the books, because Paris wasn't mentioned until the tail end, and she wasn't even supposed to go to Paris. She was supposed to go to Spain in the books, and they completely shifted it and made it Paris, probably because Lola speaks French, and they wanted her to do Paris instead. A lot of people had thought that maybe she could be studying something with French, but then we found out she was doing like sports psychology, and we're like, that's super random, but okay, go with that. But Belly's really excited, but she's afraid to leave Jeremiah. But she's also afraid of like being alone. It seems like she cares way more about what Jeremiah thinks than what she wants for herself. And I feel like that's an important theme in this season. Belly needs to choose her own path, decide her life, and not worry about leaving other people behind. And she needs to find, I've always said this, she needs to find out who she is outside of those boys, outside of a relationship and the beach house. And I feel like this is definitely her season to do that. But I'm probably going to make a part 2.
The Summer I Turned Pretty is just Little Women gender swapped. Hear me out. Belly is Lori. Conrad is Joe. And Jeremiah is Amy. Belly and Lori are both outside of the family, but they fall in love with this family so much that they want to be included in the family dynamic, so much so that they fall in love with the siblings. Conrad and Joe have a very deep connection that they have with respectively Belly and Lori. However, they both end up pushing them away. They both struggle with self-worth and wanting to be enough for the people that they love. They're both kind of convinced that they're too damaged to be loved properly and for them to properly love someone else. Jeremiah and Amy have this same golden retriever energy, but they also really struggle with being viewed as the second choice. Amy hates being viewed as the second choice to Joe, just like Jeremiah hates being viewed that way with his brother. They don't want to be seen as the consolation prize. And in both families, they deal with loss. We all cried when Beth died. Same with Susanna. 2 women that were kind of the glue of the families. It's the loss of these characters and the ultimate tragedy of it that holds the family together, that keeps them connected. Belly is Lori, desperate to belong. Conrad is Joe, too broken to choose. Jeremiah is Amy, tired of being second. And Susanna is Beth, a reminder that sometimes really good things can be lost too soon. People constantly argue if these characters ended up with the right person for them. It's not just a love triangle, but it's about growing up too fast when tragedy happens and the loss of innocence. And when you look around, when it's all said and done, who's going to be there? Who are you going to become? And who's going to love you?
The irony of this song, the irony of this entire scene, this entire song is about cheating. The song is literally called Dilemma, and the lyrics are, I love you, I need you, which very comedically touches on their delusional codependency. No matter what I do, all I think about is you. Even when I'm with my boo, boy, you know I'm crazy over you. But it is hilarious for Belly and Jeremiah considering that he stole her from his brother. And while she is with Jeremiah, she does have the thought that there's part of her that will always still love Conrad. It goes on. I met this chick and she just moved right up the block from me. The finest thing my hood has seen. But oh no, she got a man and a son though. But that's okay, cause I wait for my cue and just listen, play my position, and in no time, I plan to make this one here mine. Cue the firework that he literally shoots at two people who love each other, and his endless attempts at sabotage. Chef's kiss.
Conrad didn't leave Belly to go skiing on Christmas. He left because he couldn't handle being in love with her and alone with her. In this scene when he's talking to Agnes and explaining how he's only been in love once and it was with Belly, he talks about how he sometimes sees Jeremiah, he rarely sees Jeremiah and Belly together, and how he can't be alone with Belly. And in Belly's narration of this day, she says that the last time that she was alone with Conrad was the motel. So during this conversation, Conrad has a flashback to the 4th of July that happened immediately after season 2 ended, so pretty much right after the motel. He said that he tried to be happy being around Belly and Jeremiah being happy, but that he realized that he couldn't be alone with Belly because he wouldn't be able to keep it in. Agnes asks for clarification, and he confirms that he loved her. On the 3rd day of Christmas, Belly thinks that Conrad leaves to go skiing. He says his flight was going to be rescheduled for the 28th, and then Jeremiah confirmed that he bailed on skiing over Christmas, so he never actually went. He didn't say goodbye, he was gone just like a ghost, and it kind of reminds me of how she felt during the motel scene where she basically said that Conrad just does whatever he wants to. But then we discover the post-it note. He was essentially confirming to Belly that he still loves her by writing out still on 12 down but then erasing it, and then Belly kind of subtly does the same back to him by writing it back in. This conversation happened in episode 1, so it's before we saw the Christmas at Cousins flashback. It kind of makes you believe that they haven't seen each other since that 4th of July, but I think this is actually telling us the real reason why he left during Christmas. And I'm just really excited to see how he handles being alone with Belly all summer when they live together in the beach house.
Jeremiah wants Belly to promise that she'll never cut her hair for him because for Jeremiah, his sudden love for Belly was all about how she had externally changed. This is the same Jeremiah who claims he can recall the exact moment he knew he was in love with Belly. It just so happens to be the moment that she looks conventionally attractive. That's why this show is called The Summer I Turned Pretty, as inspired by the movie Sabrina, in which Sabrina is completely ignored by the boy she's in love with her entire life, David Larrabee, until he suddenly notices her when she comes back from Paris, incredibly sophisticated and outwardly attractive. Jeremiah is inspired by David. He admits himself it was this moment when Belly shows up looking prettier. Everything for him had changed. Conrad couldn't say the same. He liked Belly better with her glasses. He was in love with this girl and this girl. Jeremiah was in love with this one. That's the point of infinity. It never begins and it never ends. That's why Conrad thinks to himself, have I loved you 20 seconds or 20 years? Jeremiah gets the song that goes, let's not get complicated. Let's just enjoy the view. Her external beauty had everything to do with his sudden romantic interest. And this is what I mean when I say that they are living in denial. Because Belly tries to obviously point out, I'm obviously going to need to cut my hair someday. Life is long. You want me to have long hair my entire life? And she makes a ridiculous, nonsensical promise to him based on what he wants for her. Because both of these people are terrified of change. And that is why they're together.